Greetings everyone, and welcome back to another tech review. In today's one, I'm going to be looking at a pretty nifty gaming console that I was offered to have a look at from my good friends over at Banggood, so a massive thank you to them for sending this product out to me for review. I really do appreciate it as always, and just by the way, I'm not being paid for this review. They've simply just provided the sample for me to review, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, and all opinions within this video are my own. Now, if you do want to check this product out, there is a link in the description below, as well as a pinned comment. It is an affiliate link, so if you do click that link and purchase the item, I will earn a small percentage of commission in sales. You do not have to click the link, it's just there if you want to. If you want to try finding it cheaper from another website, then that's absolutely all good. Also, another thing to mention, since this product is part of a sale until the 27th of June, you can find a link in the description that is also another affiliate link to Banggood's Hobby Day sales that finish on the 27th, so depending on when this video gets published, you may have some time to check out some dealios, if you want to. No pressure there, just could be an opportunity to find some cheapo tech. Now, just a fair warning, this video is going to be a bit all over the place. I'll try and structure this as best as I can, but with a console that can emulate basically anything, I don't want to show every single emulator running a game, as I would be here forever, so just bear with me for this one. I'll put the usual timestamps in the description and pinned comment, so you can skip to wherever you need to be, as there will be quite a lot of chapters in this one. Now, just a bit of a backstory. I originally bought this, the Retroid Pocket 2. Ignore this, I just put it in here because I'll lose it otherwise. Actually, this would be helpful to use with the ANBERNIC console, to be honest. Might keep that to the side then. But yeah, I originally bought this, the Retroid Pocket 2, which is a fairly cheap emulation device, and I love the color scheme because it's very reminiscent of a PS1 with the button colors and the grey shell and stuff. And when I started playing emulators on this thing, I noticed it was a bit slow in some areas. And when I started to push the console even further, it was just struggling. It was really struggling. And that's because this thing has a MediaTek MT6580 in it. And I had no clue when I bought this originally. When I seen this advertised online, I thought this was a Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, but it's just a Retroid Pocket 2. So yeah, MT6580 in it. In my experience, this just wasn't good for the emulation that I was looking for. It is pretty cool for what it is, but I'm lucky that Banggood offered me the ANBERNIC console, so we'll go ahead and take a look at that and see if it will beat this. But the ANBERNIC console is also a bit more expensive than this little thing here. So enough of this one. Let's continue on. Alright, so let's get into the actual product itself. It is listed on Banggood as the ANBERNIC RG552 144GB 15,000 plus games LP DDR4 4GB RAM Android 7.1 Linux Wi-Fi online retro handheld video game console tablet for PSP, PS1, Wii, NGC, NDS, N64, DC, 5.36-inch IPS screen, grey EU plug. Well, the grey EU plug is depending on what you choose or not. But currently, it is on sale for $287.57 Australian as of the 19th of June 2022. It was originally almost $400 Australian retail, which honestly is a bit expensive. $300 sounds a little bit more reasonable, and I'll display a currency conversion chart on screen for you all so you get a rough idea of how much this will cost all around the world. And this sale does end in 12 days, so if you do want to pick it up cheaper than retail, here it is now. If not, wait around because you might find it on sale somewhere else for a bit cheaper, who knows. Now, as for the actual console itself, yes, it sort of does look like a Switch, and in terms of pricing, a Nintendo Switch Lite is about the same price. I'll display the current cost of a Nintendo Switch in Australia right here. Last time I checked, it was $280 Australian, but you've got to weigh up what you want. I mean, both are good and each have their advantages over one another, but I'll let that choice be up to you. Reviews for this console seem to be fairly positive, with 4.41 stars out of 5. Now, before we jump into the advertisements for the console, I'll just quickly show you the specifications of the system. So we have the Rockchip RK3399 hexa-core processor based on Big Little architecture, which obviously means something that I'm not aware of. The GPU is a Mali T860. We have 4GB of DDR4 RAM. Next up, we have memory, which shows 64GB for Android as well as 16GB for Linux, and this is because this is a dual booting console. It has Android on the actual internal storage, and then you have a micro SD card that they include with the Linux on it, and that boots straight into an interface with all the available games and stuff that you can just go ahead and start playing. So I will show how to dual boot this during the review. System wise, it's running Android 7.1, and the Linux is just called ANBERNIC Linux. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm sure someone will tell me down in the comments below. Game wise, it supports basically anything and everything, and I'll try to show you some of the more heavier consoles like the Gamecube, Dreamcast, and stuff like that, just so you get an idea of how the emulation is. The screen is a 5.36-inch OCA full lamination IPS 1920 by 1152 5:3 aspect ratio 10-point multi-touch display, which is quite a good screen for this. The micro SD cards are 16GB as well as the 128GB one. So in this listing, you get two micro SD cards, one that has Linux on it, and the other one has all the games on there, which is a little bit of a grey area. Unless you legally own the ROMs that are on the card, it's kind of a little bit iffy, but I won't get too much into that. Just know that it comes with with a 128GB microSD card filled to the brim with games. And if you're also wondering, there's 2 microSD card slots on this thing. Battery-wise, we have 2 3200mAh batteries with approximately 6 hours of battery life. It also supports fast charging, which is quite nice. We have power dissipation, showing the power consumption. Other functions show that we have a heatsink as well as a fan, so for intense gaming sessions on this thing, it'll stay nice and cool. HDMI supports Wi-Fi online games, a 3.5mm headphone jack, dual 3D joysticks, dual vibration motors, supports a bunch of languages, has the 30W fast charger in the box, USB charging cable, gift box, and the manual, and the appearance's exquisite appearance, comfortable feel, let you fondle admiringly. I'll just agree to that, okay? Alright, we'll just quickly breeze over the pictures. So we've got ANBERNIC RG552, Linux Android dual system with the Rockchip RK3399 hex core. The screen there supporting all the games. You can also see the launcher displayed on screen there. For Android, 2 postures for 1 body, dual system, Linux and Android. To boot in Android, you have the 16GB microSD card out. To boot into Linux, you put the 16GB microSD card in. That's pretty much how it works. Android system, play as you like. Play all kinds of Android games. Fortnite, League of Legends, World of Warcraft, Fortnite, World of Warcraft. They just repeated that. Play all kinds of Android software, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, 1RG552, game console plus tablet, which is correct. It also doubles as a tablet, I guess. When it comes to games, we are more. Support vibration motor, Android games, all of those listed there. Transfer games, more than 20 formats, support users to download related format games. It also has Moonlight Streaming, so you can play PC games by Moonlight Streaming. I have tried this function and it does work, and it's pretty nifty. I will show you this. Good chip, not compromise. RK3399, based on Big Little architecture. I've only ever used Rock chip processors in really cheap tablets, so it'll be interesting to see how well this one holds up in this console. Mass storage space supports dual TF card expansion, games, movies, music, photo albums, etc. can be easily accommodated, bringing you a wonderful life. USB 3 high-speed transmission. And then a shot of gameplay on there. Is that from Raid Shadow Legends? I have no idea. I don't think it is. It probably isn't. It becomes a TV game console in seconds. HDMI high-speed connection, small screen becomes big screen in seconds as game screen is synchronized with the TV, connect gamepads, and it can support 4 people online. So yeah, you can connect this up to a TV, connect a bunch of Bluetooth gamepads to this, and you have an emulation station right in your lounge room or bedroom or wherever you want to play it. Wi-Fi online sparring? Touching heartstrings. Yep, that's a thing. The high fidelity dual stereo speakers and the dual 3D joysticks with dual motors, which I can confirm at this point in time, there are dual vibration motors in this thing, which is pretty nifty, I guess. Supports fast charging, as we already know, with about 6 hours of battery life, and on the back you also do have some rubber grips to make it feel a little bit more comfortable in your hands. Alright, so I think you get the rough idea of what this console will contain, but the question is, can this almost $300 Australian console be an emulation dream? Let's get to the unboxing and find out. I have an official Banggood wrapped parcel right here, and if you scan that you get a free gift, so if you want to scan that and get a free gift, feel free. This took about 2 weeks to get to me, which is not that bad at all, and I'm really excited to take a look at this and test this game console out, because as I said during the intro, my Retroid Pocket has an MT6580 in it, and I had no idea that it had that in it. So I'm hoping this will be a lot better, obviously going to be a lot more newer than a PSP or a Nvidia Shield. So let's crack this open and take a look at the ANBERNIC RG552. I was going through my drawers and I found this cool orange knife, which sort of matches the whole Banggood theme. I'll just... Oh, that didn't work. It's not... Oh wait, I sliced it the wrong way. That's better. Alright, it's wrapped fairly well, so I just sliced completely through that, which is all good. But here we have the console, which is screaming very pop station vibes to me. I don't know why, or even just the normal PSP itself, but yeah, ANBERNIC, there it is there. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, ANBERNIC. But it's sort of looking like a Switch Lite sort of thing. RG552, and around the sides we also have very PSP looking, just the diagram of what it's going to look like with the dual stereo speakers, the 2 micro SD cards which contain the 15,000 games, and whatever version of Linux they've put on here, reset and function, and there's a sad onion there as well. Good to see him. And the other side just has a diagram here, which I'll show you on the actual console. On the other side just says we've got the console, power adapter, charging cable, and a user manual in bronze grey. Bronze grey? Okay. And opening it up, we've got the actual console itself. It's got a bit of weight to it. They did ask me if I wanted a European plug or US plug. I just went European because I'm not going to be using this. I'll be using just my own chargers that I've got. Just printed on there, it says 30 watts. So this is a 30 watt fast charger. And it's got a bit of weight to it, but I'll just stick with my own one. There's the 128GB card. Oh yeah, there's the second SD card, 16GB. So that's the one with Linux on it. Then we have the charging cable. We have a tempered glass screen protector. Is it still in one piece? Because I did see in the reviews that some had received a broken one. That's all still good. I suck at putting these things on, but I'll try my best. If I want to put it on, I might put it on after the review actually. And we have the instruction manual, which I'm gonna need because I got no idea how this thing works. Alright, let's grab this out. Just slammed it on the desk. Okay, that's a bit thicker than I originally had thought. First initial impressions, it's all plastic. I thought it may have been metal, but it's all plastic, unfortunately. Look, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's still all good. We've got 4 screws that hold the back cover down, which we're going to pull out to take this apart at the end of the video. Fan there as well. There is an exhaust where you can see the heatsink, which I think that there is plastic, but then underneath you can just see the little heatsink there. There's a USB-C port for charging, USB-C to connect to a PC or for on the go, all that sort of stuff, headphone jack, and we've also got a mini HDMI port on top. The shoulder buttons, which are micro switches, nice and clicky. And the front is looking a little something like this, with the buttons coloured like so. I also have my Switch Lite here. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller than the Switch Lite, but it is a bit thicker than the Switch Lite. Also, comparing the analog sticks, they're about the same. These ones are a little bit more sunken down, which I guess makes sense to keep it nice and flush. They do click down, and they look to be the exact same design as well. The D-pad on the ANBERNIC is also very reminiscent to the Game & Watch NES style D-pads, which I like, instead of the more basic Switch Type 1. I do prefer the more thicker D-pad. The switches for the shoulder buttons are a lot more clicky on the ANBERNIC one, and they're positioned like so instead of like on the Switch Lite. And keep in mind that this console is pretty much the same cost as a Switch Lite, except you can't play Switch games, you can play a whole bunch of other different games, but you can hack one of these things, I think. Or is it the original model? I'm not too sure. I'm not too up to date with emulation and homebrew stuff on the Switch. That's pretty much the difference between those two. We've got the dual stereo speakers, the dual SD cards, reset, and F. What did F do again? Oh, that's home. Oh, okay, that makes sense. You just press that and it goes home. On the side, we also have a volume rocker, and on the other side is just a power button. I wonder, if we just press the power button, does this thing just boot up? Or do we need to have the SD cards in? Maybe it's completely dead. Whoop, fan kicked in. That's it, we've booted. Yeah, it's completely dead. The display is really, really nice. That is super crisp. We've got ATV Launcher Pro, Calculator, Calendar, Chrome, Clock, Dolphin for Gamecube, Downloads, Drastic DS Emulator, Duck Station, that's multi-purpose I think, Email, Explorer, FBN, don't know what you do, GBA Emulation, Game Boy Color, Gallery, Lightning, N64 Emulator, MD-EMU, MSX Emulator, Moonlight Game Streaming. I definitely want to try this. I want to put Doom on this and just sit in bed and play Doom. I wonder how good it will actually run. Music, Neo Geo Emulator, NES Emulator, Neo Geo Pocket Emulator, Open Bore, which I'm not too sure what that is, PC Engine Emulation, PSP, Play Store, Retroarch for more emulation, settings, Super Nintendo Emulator, Sogyu, keyboard, or something, sound recorder, video, Yaba Sanshiro Pro, I have no idea what that is, and RA Dream would probably be Dreamcast, I'd say. Holy crap, man, this is filled to the brim. I can also use the buttons and analog sticks to choose everything I need to. Now, because they've put a custom launcher on top of Android, there are some shortcuts for this where you can move stuff around, create folders, and all that sort of stuff. I do like this launcher, the ATV Launcher Pro, having everything right here to just go into, and because this is Android, you do have the options to just scroll up and you do get the normal home buttons, recents, all that sort of stuff where you can just close everything like that. You don't have to just stick with the buttons. You can use the touchscreen, of course, and everything should work accordingly. And as well as the shortcuts, they just pop up. There's a little screenshot button there. So the main Android functions are there, as well as the buttons. I didn't find the little navigation bar out until I was playing around with this further on and realizing why I couldn't get out of emulators and stuff. I just had to swipe up, and there it was. And we can come straight into settings. Does it have an accelerometer? No, it doesn't. Can I swipe down? There we go. So we've got key mapping, Wi-Fi, and that's about it. Set screen lock. Obviously there's no fingerprints or anything like that. Wi-Fi I'll connect to soon. More has just AirPlay mode, tethering, VPN, network, and all that sort of stuff. Display, can we change the wallpaper? Because there is that pretty cool wallpaper there. Oh, that's the only one. Just this game wallpaper. It looks nice and vibrant. I might put my own wallpaper on here. I think that might be a good idea. Sleep, screensaver, font size, display size. We'll just leave that. HDMI. I might showcase this in the video or just try it off camera and let you all know how it went. Notifications. I guess we can do this. It is an Android device, so I guess we may as well have a look through here just to see if there's any hidden features. You never know. Easter egg. Basic daydreams. Call management. There could be something hidden in here. I thought the clock was GameCube then, but no, there's GameCube there. Drastic, DuckStation. I mean, the good thing is every emulator is on here for you. The bad thing is about the games that are on the SD card though, which we'll put in soon, but unless you own the actual games, then it's kind of a bit illegal sort of thing. Luckily, I do own a lot of the games that I want to test, and for gaming on this, what I actually want to test is my own favorite games for each system. I probably won't try every single emulator, and that's all the applications, by the way. Go down to sound, which we can use the volume keys at the side to. I'm used to a sound playing when you do that, but there's nothing at the moment. The notification tone, it's loud. Okay, that's good. Storage. So what this comes with is 64 gigabytes of internal storage. Then you have Linux on 16 gigabytes. And then you have all the games on 128 gigabytes. That's impressive. That's pretty good. Battery, 2 hours until full. So obviously I'm going to have to let this charge. I want to also do a battery test on this. Memory, 1.1 gig used of the 4 gigabytes. Location, security, you're not going to be able to do much here. Accounts, Google, languages and input, backup and reset, date and time, accessibility, printing, and about, which shows that this is running Android 7.1.2. I'll check to see if I do get any updates for this. We do have a unique serial number, which means this is a legit device, unlike the Welcome devices with their very unique serial number. No, this is all looking fairly good so far. So I'll connect to Wi-Fi. Do I get 5 gigahertz? No. Yeah, only 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, unfortunately, but it is what it is. 5 gigahertz would have been better, especially with doing the streaming and all that, but see how we go. System update. Come on. Give us an update. Maybe on their website. I'll check their website to see if there's any updates, but stuck on 7.1.2, which is a couple of Android versions behind, but for something like this, I think they wanted a fairly stable version of Android, and look, Android 7 isn't the best, but it will do, and especially with everything included on this, I'm sure it will be fine. It's also downloading stuff, but that is all good. If you want to see what games I actually own for realsies, I can show you if you want to, so then that legality part's all out of that grey area. I can do that. I do like the user interface here though. Pretty much you boot it straight up and you've got everything that you need right here. So first impressions, I'm liking this. And I just press the power button and there we go. Cool. Let's open up the user manual, see what this has to say. So emulator option for Retroarch, we have F key plus start key to exit game and F key plus B key to call out the menu, you know, the Retroarch menu and stuff. Then we have copy game, external gamepad setting. You can connect via USB Type-C if you wanted to. I think I've got a fair idea of how to use this. Oh, that's all Chinese, that's okay. Yeah, I'm actually going to be having a look at something Linux-based. I know that's going to make some people happy, because I barely use Linux, if ever. Can I just put the SD cards in this thing, or do I'm going to switch the console off? It would probably make sense if I switch the console off. We also have a little notification LED just peeking through there as well. Just do that. So I put the 128 gig one in slot 1. I'll just use a stick of RAM, why not? And then Linux can go into the second slot, which I'll just use the stick of RAM to push that in. There we go. Now before I show you the way to boot into Linux, I will just let you all know now that the Android system on this can be updated to Android 11, which is quite a significant jump. It can also be updated to Android 9, but that's a Patreon link, I believe. So you'd have to do some Google searches to find that one, but you can go straight to Android 11 on this. The only thing is it doesn't come with Google Play services. As it is now, it does have the Google Play services, but if you opt to go to Android 11, you lose all that functionality. I'm pretty sure you can just sideload all that stuff on. After this review, I'll probably start playing around with it and upgrade it and test it all out, but I just basically wanted to show this, how it comes out of the box, and how you'd expect to get performance out of it as it is. Now at this point in time, I've also done a battery test for this. I managed to get a solid 4 hours of gaming, plus probably another half an hour to 45 minutes or so of just random games here and there. So I didn't quite get the 6 hours, unfortunately, but I kind of was playing Gamecube on this, so it was probably a little bit more demanding than N64 Emulation or SNES Emulation, for example. And then the charging speed, using a 30-watt fast charger, it took about an hour to get it from 15% to 100%, which isn't too bad at all. But so far with me just playing around with this and trying different emulators and all that, I'm very happy with how this is going. I also tried the HDMI output, which I was going to show in this video, but it was just as easy as connecting a cable and it appeared on the TV and everything worked perfectly. How to boot into Linux. You get the 16 gig micro SD card, shove it in there, and that's it. So now if you hold the power button, fan ramps up, it vibrates, and it should show a red boot logo. There we go. There we go. That's it. Now I did film a part where I first went into this and seeing all of the consoles that are available here to emulate, I was just sort of flabbergasted. I was like, that's just amazing. There's just so many here that you can stuff around with, and yeah, it is quite amazing to see it all here. Ports wise, it says you can play Doom on here. I've tried to load Doom onto this and I just can't get it working for the sake of it. I can't do it. It's here. It plays E1M1, which is good. But yeah, I've loaded Doom on here. It does this, and then it just kicks me back. I've put the WAD file, or WAD file, on the 128GB microSD card where the ports folder is, and it just doesn't want to work. I did, however, get it working in Android, so I can always jump back to that. But with all of these emulators to choose from, all of the options to pick, you can go to Start and change any settings here. So you can change settings for the games, controller, UI, game collection settings. So you can probably download more emulators to add to this collection. Sound settings, network settings, scrape. Not too sure what that is. Probably something to do with Linux. Updates and downloads, if you want to update this. You can also update the Linux system. There is a file available online to update this to the latest one, because this one is from 2021. So it could be a little bit buggy, but from what I've done testing this, it's been quite fine. Select is also just the quick access menu, so you can do whatever you need to do in here. And so once you're done with Linux, just hold the power button, or you can use the quick option menu, it's up to you. I'll just hold the power button, switches off. And now to boot back into Android, pop the SD card out. I kind of just leave it hanging there, because it's not going to go anywhere. It shouldn't anyways. Now if we power it back on, fan ramps up, ANBERNIC logo comes up, and we're booting back into Android. Now, as you might not have already seen, I have already installed some applications on here myself. I've signed into my Gmail account and went onto the Play Store, and I did put Genshin Impact on here, because I thought, hey, why not test Genshin Impact on this thing? And it turns out that Genshin Impact doesn't support controllers. I thought it would have. I just assumed it would have. So I spent an hour and a half downloading and verifying all the files and stuff, and it just didn't work. So we've got San Andreas to try. What I will do is open up Geekbench 5, because I usually run this on phones that I test, just to see what the numbers are. So I'll run it here, and I'll compare this to some other phones that I've tested on the channel before, but I don't expect this to be too much. This isn't a super powerhouse of a console like having a Snapdragon 888 in here. It pretty much is what it is. So we'll leave this and we'll come back to it, see what the numbers are. Okay, and the results are in 264 for the single core score and 710 for the multi-core score, which is not a lot, but at the end of the day, these are just numbers. Once you see the emulators in action and see how they're running, this is pretty much irrelevant, but I will just display some previous scores from other phones and prices, just in case you wanted to compare them. But I think this is on the level of the Umidigi Power 3, I think, but I could be wrong. It only makes sense that we should fire up GTA San Andreas and see how that performs on this. I have already tried this. It is a little iffy, but I'll show you how it is. And here we go. But you'll notice that B is to punch, A is to run, Y is to get in a car, and X is to jump. So all of the buttons are kind of a little bit all over the place, which is not really helpful. Also, the graphics quality is a little something like this. This is what I've had to put it down to in order for this to run in a decent way. But it's not bad though. It's far from perfect, but you can just, you know, hop in a car and off you go. There we go. And you can use the buttons to look around. Handbrake, which almost just ran into a cop. And yeah, you can remap the buttons though. If you remember in here, there's this little button here, which is a key mapper, and it brings up this option, which then you can reassign the buttons to whatever you want them to. But if you do this, then all of the emulators that you've already reassigned the buttons to, so if you have Y assigned to X and X assigned to A and all that sort of stuff, if you go into an emulator and then press that button, it all stuffs around with it. So I've just kind of left it. It's a little confusing, I know, but you can play around with this if you wanted to. I never even noticed the button layout until I tried this before and was like, oh, okay, well, that's a thing. So yeah, you just get rid of that, press X, there you go, and you can go in your merry little way. And the vibration motors do work in this, so that's all good. And yeah, I mean, it's playable. It's definitely playable. The fan is kicking in as well, and I'm just, you know, hitting every object, because why not? You may have to turn the graphics settings down a little bit more. Another game I wanted to try on here was Alien Isolation, but that requires Android 10, so I'd have to update it to Android 11, which you can do, and I'd be able to play it, but not probably at the best graphical quality. But there is a way to play Alien Isolation on this, and that's with Moonlight Streaming, which I'll show you very soon. But yeah, this is just San Andreas running how it is, and you know, it just can drown my car. And then in terms of actual Android games, I couldn't really think of any others to put on. I thought maybe Minecraft or Crazy Taxi, and then I thought I could try Ark Survival Evolved, but I put it all down to, you know what, it's made for emulators, so that is what I'm going to stick with, emulators. I just wanted to quickly show San Andreas off just to give you a rough idea of what performance is going to be like. And in terms of general Android functionality as well for this console, it's fairly good, and you can go ahead and use this just as a normal device with Android. You can open up Chrome, and you can go ahead and type in whatever you need to type in. Some guy says don't buy the RG552. It has its ups and downs, I can say that. Let's have a look at this review actually, just to see, because everyone's got their opinion, but screen quality's good, durability, price doesn't match power, poor shoulder buttons. I can say the shoulder buttons are a little iffy. It is weird having them side by side like this, but it does work. Plenty of bugs, also is all fixed with Android 11 and the Linux update, so this guy's probably reviewed a very early unit, I would say anyways. If you wanted to use this just for browsing the web, downloading ROMs, if you wanted to do that, if you can legally do that, you can absolutely do that. You can also watch YouTube on this, but just remember that battery life may hold you back a little bit. I want to demonstrate Moonlight Streaming. I've only tried it with one game so far, but if we open up Moonlight Streaming, I forgot to mention as well, with this, you need a NVIDIA graphics card, you also need to have the GeForce Experience installed, Game Stream enabled, and then you can go ahead and play games and all that sort of stuff. When I was first trying this out, I figured I'd just not read any instructions and guess how to do it, and I was completely wrong. I downloaded the Moonlight client on my computer and it just didn't do anything, and I was like, well, that's just completely not working. But no, it turns out it is working. It'll find your computer if you're connected to the same Wi-Fi network. The sad thing is though, this is only 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and not 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, so that does hurt the streaming experience a little bit, but it's not terrible. It just would have been good if they included it. But if I just click on my desktop, there's all my games. This isn't actually all of my games. Some are missing, but I believe these are just the ones that are able to be streamed, I suppose. But what I want to do is show you Doom. Of course I do. Does the connection. My computer bumps down the resolution to 720p. You can change the resolution here. There's my desktop there. There's everything there. And there we go. So I can see on the screen that it's going to be playing Doom, but I'll be able to control it all later. It's really cool. It's really nifty. And there we go, and now I just go to Lazarus Labs, I suppose, and off we go. And there we go. Here is Doom running on this console. It is locked at 60 FPS and 720p. And I can just go ahead and just play Doom to my heart's content. Oops. There we go. Did I do the right thing? Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, see, the button mapping's a little iffy, so I'd have to change all of that. Bit of lag there. Just come up to this, and off we go. Lazarus Labs! I can just get grenades. It's just really got to get used to the controls and stuff. I guess I'll fire a BFG. No, that's not the BFG button. Hang on. Nope, that's not it. Why am I crouching? Oh, okay. It's alright. It's just... And the shoulder buttons, yeah, they are kind of iffy. But, yeah. It's hard playing Doom with controls like this. Yeah, I'm gonna die. I'm dead in like 3 seconds. Yeah. But at least it works though. But yeah, you've just got to have all the prerequisites and stuff in order for it to work. And you can go ahead and stream your Steam games straight to your ANBERNIC console. I guess it is kind of handy if you want to sort of, you know, sit away from your PC and play this while you're on the couch or something like that instead of being in front of your PC. Most of the time you could just kind of, you know, connect a controller and off you go. It's the same thing. Each to their own. It's just cool to see Doom running on this, but it's basically just a screen mirror and that's really it. But, hey, at least I got to showcase it. Well, I guess now it's time to fire up the emulators. We'll just go along the ones in Android here, which have the most demanding ones like Gamecube, PSP, all that sort of stuff. Pretty much what I'll do is play them through Android, then play them on Linux, and work out which is going to be the better platform for emulation. But as it stands now, I have set up everything, all my custom mappings for the controllers and all that sort of stuff. This is something you'll have to do if you do buy this console. You'll have to come into each of the emulators and set all the settings and stuff. So I'll start with Dolphin first, just so you get an idea. And I do have my own games as well as the games that are on the included microSD card. So within Dolphin, I'll try out Burnout 2, because this is a fairly fast-paced game, obviously. Now you can drag down the top corner like so to access some quick settings, but otherwise the game itself this is kind of how it runs. It's a bit slow. There we go. We are getting 30 frames a second, but it just seems to just chug a little bit. And vibration motor does work too, which is good. It's playable for the most part. I don't think you'll have any real dramas, and it does speed up every now and again, but once again, you'll have to switch the settings down to get this working as best as you can. Because obviously with every emulator there's going to be a bunch of settings that you'll need to change. Like I changed it from OpenGL to Vulkan and all that sort of stuff. So what it is trial and error. I also put Driver San Francisco on here for Wii, and I played it for about 5 seconds because it was running at about 2 FPS, so I gave up on that quickly. If Gamecube is a little bit slow, Wii's not going to be that much better. Next up we'll try DS. So once again the microSD card is in here with all the games on it, but I'll try Need for Speed Underground 2 just so you get an idea of what DS looks like. Looks a little something like this. I mean, with DS being as basic as it is, I don't think you'll find any issues with this. I mean, it runs pretty well. Whoop, that makes it go super fast. That's not what you want to do. You'll find no issues with DS. It's just a bit small, because, you know, how are they supposed to do dual screens properly on a display like this? Once you've finished doing whatever you got to do, you can bring up the quick menu here and, you know, change the screens around if you want to. The on-screen controllers, you can do it within here. Honestly, with the screens being like that, I'd honestly just play it on a real DS. It makes a lot more sense having the screens as they are on the actual DS than having them side by side like that. It's a little strange, but that's just me, that's my opinion. Game Boy Advance, I want to show you Crash Bandicoot. As you'd expect, GBA works perfectly fine. You'll have no issues with this. It's Game Boy Advance. It basically will run on anything and everything. GBA's fine. You'll have no problems here. Game Boy Color. I have one game that I want to try. Pokemon Puzzle League, because it's one of my favorites. I mean, I could have put, you know, Pokemon Red or Gold or whatever on here, but this is just one of my favorite games that I loved to play as a kid. Perfect. Not a problem. I haven't played this in so long. Well, if it didn't run, then there's a serious problem. Next up is Nintendo 64, which I have quite the collection on here, and I do have the collection in real life as well, but what I have done is in profiles. If I go to Control 1 profile, as you can see, I've got Hot Wheels, Perfect Dark, Space Invaders, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. That's because I've had to set these for the button layout, because the Nintendo 64 controller is, you know, a bit weird. Because you have the C buttons, as well as the A and B buttons, they're all face buttons, you have to assign the C buttons to either the joystick or the shoulder buttons or something like that. So I want to show you how Perfect Dark runs on this, because this is one of my favorite games of all time, is Perfect Dark. Now the on-screen controls do come up. Once you start using it, it does go away. And what I've done here is I've set the controls to be more of a modern FPS layout, sort of what they are on 360. And so now I can come in here and go straight down to the bottom floor like this, open up this, reload my gun, go in here, shoot this bloke, there he goes. Perfect Dark does run, you know, a bit laggy. It did push the N64 to its limits, but it runs absolutely fine on this. And you'll have no issues shooting down Datadyne guards, or scatter aliens, or whatever you wanted to do, man. Feel free. But yeah, I'm happy with this. I can easily sit here and play this for a number of hours. It's such a fun game. I do like this. Also, holding select, I've mapped that to the menu button, so I can just go escape and done. I have a NVIDIA Shield that I used to use for emulation, and N64 Emulation wasn't really the best on that. It was a bit laggy at times, but this is almost flawless. No problems whatsoever. You can use the N64 emulators in Retroarch if you wanted to, but because it comes with a dedicated emulator already pre-installed, I just figured may as well use this, because it also gives me an opportunity to try most of the major consoles with the emulators already installed, if that makes sense. Instead of going to Retroarch and going through the entire core list and picking out what I want to pick out, it's all just here. Megadrive emulation, I don't think you'll have a problem here. You'll find that this is pretty much full speed, and you can go ahead and play all your favorite Mega Drive or Genesis games, whatever you want to call them, and have a good time. MSX I won't demonstrate, Neo Geo I also won't demonstrate. NES I can show you Super Mario Brothers, because everyone likes Super Mario Brothers, and why not show it off? Also there's Super Mario Brothers 4. This is supposedly Super Mario Bros. 4. Comes with bootleg games, which is fun. Yep. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Sure thing. There's a sushi bar. Why am I a ball that's bouncing around? What happened to you, Mario? What game is this even ripping off? Okay. This is like Bounce. It's like Bounce on Nokia. Whee! I will show you, proper Super Mario Brothers. I don't need to really say much here. NES emulation is perfect. If you didn't think this could pull off NES emulation, then, yeah. $10 bootleg handhelds probably can't play NES. I mean, you'd think a lot of things can play NES, and that's mostly true, but sometimes you'll find an odd console here or there that just doesn't want to play NES, but this works. This is good. You can play NES on your ANBERNIC RG552 that cost you $300. You can play NES. If you just bought it to play NES, that's a silly idea, but it works. I just wanted to showcase that. Okay, we'll move on. Neo Geo Pocket, open bore, which is, yeah, Beats of Rage or something like that. So something that I'm not too familiar on how it runs natively anyways, so I'll continue on. PCE, I'll leave that. PSP though, Tony Hawk's Underground 2 Remix. One of my favourite games for the PSP, and this runs quite well on this. I did have to turn frame skipping off. One of the rendering options also had to be switched off for this to run as smooth as possible. It will run at a capped 30 FPS, which should be correct for this. I need to turn the sound off, and just like so, it's Tony Hawk. Well, Thug 2 Remix. Thug 2 is one of my favourite games, and Remix is just basically Thug 2 Portable. And it feels so boring without the music. One other game I do want to show you with PSP as well is Burnout Legends. With Burnout Legends, if you didn't have Burnout 3, you could just opt for Burnout Legends on PSP. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just Burnout 3 chopped down to work with the PSP. It's not exactly super full speed, but for the most part it runs fairly good. And I just done, whoops. So you can just go ahead and just smash into your rivals like so. I love Road Rage, it's so fun. This is one of my favourite modes in Burnout, honestly. Whee! Get into the wall. Piss off. Once again, you'd have to go into settings to properly change the graphical settings and all that sort of stuff down to get a better experience, but this is what I've landed at, and I'm pretty happy with it. Now, if I do come into Retroarch, I have already put a bunch of cores on here. So I've done PlayStation 1, because we'll have to try out PlayStation 1 anyways, N64, Dreamcast, and Doom. But I just want to show you Doom. Here you go, see, Doom, PrDoom. PrDoom, I said. PrDoom it is. Doom! And to hide the RetroArch stuff, so in every RetroArch emulator, what you'll have to do is minimize the on-screen controls. But there you go, you can play Doom. Off you go. You just have to find the right buttons and stuff. Once again, control mapping is a thing. There we go. Bit fiddly to control at the moment, it's a little weird. But yeah, I couldn't get it to work in ports in Linux, so this is what I've had to land on. And you know what? It's fine. It works good. If Doom couldn't run on this, once again, there'd be a serious problem, but nope. This works good. Let's finish the level, just to make it complete. Also, the MIDI emulation's a little iffy. I don't like that. But it will do. Pressing the RetroArch button brings you back there. You can close content, load core, and now I want to show you PlayStation 1. Of course, I want to show Tekken 3 off, because who doesn't like Tekken 3? Tekken 3 is great. So hide the controls once again. Let's choose Paul. Yeah, Paul's fine, because this will work absolutely perfectly fine, and you can just kick your enemies in the head like this and win. I'm gonna lose. I lost. I'm tired. Don't blame me, okay? The thing with RetroArch as well is every time you want to load cores and contents and stuff, you have to come through to find your storage and find exactly where everything is and then come down to it and stuff. I think you can pin folders, but I can't be too sure. The last time I actually used RetroArch properly was on my Xperia Play. Look at that, man. It's absolutely filthy, but you know what? The Xperia Play was great. It was such a good console, and this is what I used for emulation with Retroarch on Android 2.3.6, I think. Some good times with this, and I would carry 2 of these around with me, so when the battery would run out on this one, I'd just go to the next one and play the game that I had on there, and then go back to this. So yeah, good times. Also, just quickly show off Crash Bandicoot 3. Oh, I didn't choose PAL. That's okay. PSP works, PS1 works, Gamecube, a little bit laggy, but it does work. Also, the whole time during this, the fan's been, switching on and off, but it hasn't been a problem. You barely notice it, switching on at full speed when you're doing heavy gaming and stuff, because, yeah, the sound's nice and loud, so no complaints there. And as I said, I've played this for a decent 4 hours, just solid, just sitting there, just playing games and all that, and I have enjoyed my experience so far. I do like this console. SNES is up next. I have Ninja Warriors, one of my favourite games. I used to speedrun this, and I'm now 7th, I think. But it's still a fun game to test, I suppose, because I know how it runs. Sometimes there is a bit of a frame issue here and there, it might sort of do a quick little lag, but for the most part, see, it kicks in. Okay, I take that back, it's kind of a bit iffy. Maybe it's this game. Could be this game. Oh no, see, it's fine now. It comes and goes. Honestly, N64 Emulation is probably perfect for me on this. Like, that's what I really, really wanted the most. That and PSP. And both of them work perfectly fine for me anyways. Just the thing with emulators, people want to get, consoles like this and expect games to just work straight away. You just put them on, bang, they run perfectly fine. But it's the config and the button mapping and all that sort of stuff that you got to fiddle around with. Stuff that, it would be too much to show in a video, but just remember that there's a lot of settings you have to go through to get it, running quite perfect. Now, I could have tried the Sega Saturn emulator, but I thought Dreamcast is more important to me because we've got Res up on here. Unfortunate bit is, though, even though this has dual vibration motors, you cannot trigger vibration to work through the emulator. I've tried this actual emulator, RE Dream or Redream or whatever, and through Retroarch, and I can't get haptic feedback to work or vibration, because that's how you're supposed to play Res. Well, there was another way to play Res. I'm not going to really go into that, but I'll just demonstrate how you would play it without vibration. So you would just go along and use your control stick and boom. That's it. It's just an on-rail shooter. That's a rhythm game as well. Just for the sake of it as well, I'm going to show you Resident Evil Code Veronica X. No, it's just Code Veronica. It's just Code Veronica. Sorry. Oh, that's right. I forgot it's dark here. It had to be dark, didn't it? Ah, scary. Follow me, he says. Well, he doesn't say it. He just sort of nods and indicates, hey, follow me. And I'm just going to sit here. I only recently played Code Veronica the whole way through. Probably like, I don't know, I think the start of 2020 actually. Good game.
Go on. Get out of here.
Yeah, pretty much with Dreamcast, I'd say you'd have no issues with this. Everything seems to run pretty much at full speed. You might get some slowdowns here and there. Just wait. Loading times, man. Gotta love loading times. Good days. There we go. See, look, rain effects. It's nice. And I've just got a lighter out in the rain. Oh, explosion. Ah. Oh, briefcase. Hello, zombie. I have no guns yet. Don't worry, I'll have a gun soon. Ah, evil zombie. Ah. Please remake this in HD, Capcom. I know you're busy with RE4, but like, this could use it too. Man, other RE fans would be happy. And that's it with an Android. I'm pretty sure that gives you a good idea of how this is going to run. But what I want to do is boot this into Linux and try the bigger games like PSP, Gamecube, Dreamcast and all that, just to give you an idea of the differences. Obviously Megadrive, SNES and all that's going to run perfectly. Just, yeah, as I said, the more bigger consoles, the more powerful ones, I just want to show you within Linux to give you a better idea of which OS you should be using for emulation. You can choose Linux or Android. For me personally, I'd prefer Android. I know it well enough. I know Android, I know how it works and stuff, but if you want to experiment around, there's always Linux there. You can just boot straight into it if we want to do that. Power off the console, like so. That'll just power off, and now I'll do the right thing and not use a stick of DDR4 this time. I just use this little USB-C adapter and push that in, and problem solved. We can boot up to Linux. See? Works. Also within Linux, most of these emulators are through Retroarch. Some are actual standalone emulators, like PSP is PSP, I don't remember the name of it, but it's a separate emulator. But pretty much the shortcut keys is what you're going to use within most of these emulators to go back to the menus and stuff. I may as well start off with PSP. We're right here. I'll boot up Burnout Legends and you can see how it runs on Linux. So you press function and B, and that brings up your menu because there's no touchscreen interface with this. But that's how you get to the menu and change everything around. Buttons should be all mapped, and I gotta turn the sound down again. Let's choose it red this time. Let's do a red car. And PSP on Linux looks a little something like this. To me, it looks the same. Also, the volume's kind of stuck. I can't use the volume buttons to change this here. I don't know why. So if I go like this, can I change the volume now? I can't. So you'd actually have to come to settings, change the audio. Oh, there we go, the global audio. You'd have to turn that down to about 5. There we go. That's probably a little better. That's kind of better. It just sucks that the volume buttons don't work. Maybe they have patched that in, you know, different versions, but as it is now, you cannot use the volume buttons to change the volume, which is a bit unfortunate. It is what it is, I suppose. So that, and then we can just go to menu, and then I can try. Actually, I should have showed you Vice City Stories, because that runs quite well. I'll show you Thug 2 Remix. I told you this review is going to be all over the place. It is just not structured at all. I basically shouldn't have said yes to reviewing this, because it's such a difficult thing to test, because it's just game mode here and there, and just, yeah. Thug 2 Remix on here looks like this. Actually, I think it works better on here. I'd have to go over the footage, compare them side by side, but I think it runs better on here. There's no slowdown or anything. A little bit here and there, but for the most part it's fine. Then again, I did stuff around with most of the settings in here already, so that could also be the case. At least you've got that option of going from Linux to Android. So the people that are really, really involved with Linux and stuff, they can do whatever they want, put different distros on here and stuff, and play around with all of that, whereas I'm just basic and just like Android. But yeah, you've got that option. It's good to have options. It's good to not be stuck to one thing. So yeah, there you go. And we just do that, and there we go. Alright, so I wanted to try Gamecube on here real quick, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to connect to my network in order to get it going. So even with connecting to a Wi-Fi network, I don't see how I could get Gamecube running on this. Like, I go to updates and downloads and content downloader, but there's nothing there. Perhaps I would have to update this in order for that to work. Let's move on to Nintendo 64, and I'll boot up Perfect Dark and show you how this runs in Linux. I'm not too sure what the controls are going to be like though. I may have to reassign them to wherever, but we'll just see how we go. I didn't turn on high-res mode either. Probably should have done that, because this is in widescreen, which this game supports. The C buttons are on the right stick and movement is on the left stick, but as I said, with Android I've mapped them to be more modern sort of thing. But this is going to be fine. Just guess. Just got to find the button. Which is the button? There's the button. Alright, cool. And I'm sure that if I went into Retroarch settings here, this is where I can play around with the video settings, the controls and all that. And don't forget, with Retroarch, you can actually do profiles for different games. Like if I wanted to come into Port 1 controls, I can map them all here, and I can save the remap files so that I can come into here, load them up if I wanted to, and play the games. Retroarch can look a little bit confusing at times with all of these features, and you've sort of got to go through every single one and determine what you need to change and stuff. But if you're in the emulation field, you're pretty much going to be used to this, but to newcomers, Retroarch may seem a little bit complicated at first. It does take a lot of trial and error to work out what settings need to be changed. Out of the box though, if you were to boot straight into Linux and play N64, you've got no issues. It seems to be running pretty much full speed, and this should be with most of the other N64 games as well. I should have tried like something like Conker's Bad Fur Day to see how the emulation is on that. I mean, I tried running that on PC in 2005 and it was not that good. Not that good at all. While we're here, I just want to show you 32X emulation. Why not? I've got Doom 32X here. Let's play this this port, which has been fixed up by a lot of people actually. I didn't realize that, but yeah, there's a team that's been working on Doom 32X to restore it to absolutely gorgeous condition instead of what we got with the wait for it. Wait, we're entering the level. Wait. Yep. Perfect. Yep. The music is something. At least the sound effects are fairly good. And I own this on my actual 32X on PAL and NTSC. What an experience this is. At least you can run Doom on a 32X emulator. But I would highly recommend to check out the updated one because, yeah, they've changed quite a lot of things to make it playable after all of these years of this being a fairly laughed at port. Can you see why it's laughed at? Let me quickly show you res within the Linux system, which you actually get a boot logo. That's kind of cool. It's kind of nostalgic, I guess. I mean, for me, I had a Dreamcast at a young age, so I was putting games on CD-ROMs and playing them because they're very hard to find games for this console. But hey, that's all good. Alright. Activate vibration device. Yes. Will it actually work in Retroarch? Well, in Linux. Because it didn't work in Android as far as I tested, so we'll see if it actually works in here. It'd be really cool if it does. Alright, here we go. Does vibration work? Come on. Yeah, okay, it's a little laggy. Oh, no vibration. Come on, man. So if I go to this, so we are in Retroarch, so let me try and activate the haptic feedback. It's on. I'm not too sure. Unless you have to change the VMU, you probably have to come to the VMU settings to change that. I have a feeling that's the case because this would obviously just boot up with the VMU already installed. So that is probably likely the issue. Yeah, not too sure. Tried Googling it and I've got no clue. I tried looking through Retroarch to see if I can change the VMU options, but it doesn't seem to be the case. This is a little bit laggy, it's chugging along, so I did see this working better within Android, but once again, the config files are what you're going to have to stuff around with, video settings and all that sort of stuff to get this working, and not to mention any updates for the Linux system as well will improve any emulation, since I tried connecting to a network and I couldn't do anything, so it is what it is, unfortunately. Still haven't got Gamecube working on this, well, in Linux anyways. But that's Dreamcast, so we'll continue on. Going back to the PS1, I'm going to boot up Crash Bandicoot 3 actually, or Crash Bandicoot Warped, instead of Tekken, because as much as Tekken's good, Crash 3 is more fun. And I know I can debate with someone, a good friend of mine, who likes Crash 2 more than Crash 3, and I like Crash 3 more than Crash 2. So, I don't know, man. Let me know down in the comments which Crash game you prefer. Maybe you like Crash Twinsanity. I mean, I do. I like Twinsanity. There's nothing wrong with Twinsanity. It's half broken, but, like, it's fine. Wrath of Cortex is, well, the ones after Twinsanity were terrible. It was all when the remake came out, the Insane Trilogy. That's when things changed. I guess, as you would expect for this, it's going to run fine. But let me actually go into a level and just run through very quickly. It's also stretched to fit the screen, so if you want the true aspect ratio, you know, the 4:3, you can absolutely do that. But just playing it as it is, I just fell into a pit because I wasn't looking where I was going. No input lag either, which is good, and it does look quite nice. Bit of a, you know, lag spike here and there. The Retroarch I had to play around with on my Xperia Play a lot. I had to do a lot of config files and stuff like that. It just... And, I mean, it's obviously come a long way since then. That was Android 2.3.6 or whatever it was, so... Yeah, definitely something you'll have to play around with. And you can just use that shortcut button there and that's it. Come here and change whatever you need to change. I think you may be sick of hearing me say you can just change the config settings without showing you actually how to change them. But trust me, the process of having to change all of these is just trial and error, trying which options do work for you and all that sort of good stuff. And that's pretty much all that I want to show within Linux. I mean, as I said, I could go through each of these emulators and show a game being played from each one of these. For the basic ones, I assume that they're going to run perfectly fine. It's just the more demanding ones that I wanted to test out. I could have showed you Sega Saturn, but I didn't put any games on here. Fast shutdown. And that's it. If I'd continued to show stuff within Linux, I'd be here for more than 2 hours. As much as I wanted to go really in-depth with this review and show as many emulators as possible, it's just way too much time that's going to be taken up by just playing games on this. So I pretty much just want to deliver my experience with this console, playing the games that I like on this, the systems that I prefer to play, and so far everything's looking pretty good. But what I want to do now is tear this apart, because I want to do the conclusion after I tear this down, because I want to see the fan and the heatsink on this, and then once I see that, then I'll jump into a conclusion, and then we'll call this one a video, I think. As far as I know, no one's taken apart this console. I did quickly look at the reviews on YouTube, just sort of scroll through them, and I didn't see any, but I could be wrong there. So if you are looking to see what is inside of this, here it is. It's not Torx screws that take this apart. You need a hex bit. Is it hex? Which you'll find this bit in most common toolkits anyways. And I'm going to be breaking through the warranty seal, so can't return this now. Well, I didn't pay anything for it, so I guess there's no harm done. But if you do buy this, and you do want to pull your console apart to replace the battery and stuff, destroying this sticker voids all of that. Unsnapping all of the snaps, I can take the back cover off to reveal the innards. There is our battery there, which says it is the 2 x 3200 mAh batteries. And this is still plugged in to the console. Is it actually 2 batteries or not? That's the question. It is right there. You can see 2 batteries sandwiched together. So that is how that works there. And that's sitting right on top of the motherboard as well. So that's right there. And we also have the fan, which has a dedicated heatsink right on top of the Rockchip processor. So that's quite nifty to see. I will take that off in a second, but I just want to show you the little vibration motors that are in there. They're nothing too spectacular, but they do work. Flex ribbons for the display and touchscreen, just popping up one of the analog sticks. That's what it looks like there, with its own dedicated PCB and flex ribbon, and that just sticks down into place and is held down by 2 screws. Alright, so let's take the fan out then. Let's see what this looks like underneath here. So that comes off like so. Unfortunately, how I'd have to show you the chips is I gotta take the whole thing apart in order to get to under them. Is it worth it? I think it is. So basically, this is the heatsink there. So we do have the fins, and we do have this that goes straight on top of the hottest components of this unit. Just showing you this isn't enough. I want to take this a little step further. And hopefully my console will still work at the end of this. But at least it's easily serviceable though. If you need to buy battery, it's just pop the back off. There it is there. Okay, once you've disconnected all the flex ribbons, there are 11 visible screws that have to be removed before the motherboard can be taken out. Alright, there is the guts. So that is what the screen assembly looks like, with all of the buttons in there, the analog sticks I've left screwed in, the dual stereo speakers, which are pretty much the same size as the ones you'd find in most normal phones, and they were quite good for what they are, so no complaints there. But we'll put this to the side because now we have the motherboard, and swapping it over, there it all is there. The complicated guts right here. We do have a module just here, and I'll Google that and see what that comes up with, but that may be the 64GB, but I can't be too sure of that. Let's take the screws off the heatsink and take a better look at the ones under here. There should be thermal pads under here, but there may also be thermal paste. Oh, there you go. It is a thermal pad right there. So that is the Rockchip processor, the RK3399 processor right there, and as well as the 4GB of RAM right there. These are 2 gig modules each. So that would be the 64 gig flash module just on the back there. But I will show you those up close and Google them just to make sure that they are what they are. I don't know, honestly, if it would be worth replacing the thermal pad with some thermal paste for there and leaving the thermal pads for the RAM. It does a good enough job anyways, and I don't think you'll run into any dramas. With me testing out games on this, the fan does work quite well, and I didn't have any thermal issues, so I think this would be fine for the most part. This is a decent decent piece of copper that they've put in here, so no complaints here, honestly. Pretty nifty, I will say that. And now the question is, will this thing still work after I've pulled it apart? Probably. I hope it still works because I plan on using this after the review. So I think I have covered absolutely everything on this console and showed pretty much all the functionality of it, which means I need to go into the big, long conclusion. For its current price of $290 Australian, it's not a bad deal given the fact you do get a card full of games, which once again is a very grey area, but if you do own some of them, then that is all good, I think. The dual booting functionality, the wide range of emulators ready to pick up and play with the exceptions of changing some settings and fumbling around with gamepad controls, and the availability of a later Android update as well as a Linux update to fix a lot of the issues found with the out-of-the-box experience is all positive. Using the console for Game Boy games, Dreamcast, N64, PlayStation, PSP, Moonlight Streaming, and more, I honestly had a blast with them, but the battery life for me does ruin this. Given I got a solid, let's say, 4.5 hours before needing to charge it at 15%, maybe a bit of a negative for someone who wanted to take it on a long plane ride or something, but for most normal circumstances, you should be able to get the advertised 6 hours. It was just for me testing so much that I had to test that I got the solid 4.5 hours. I will praise the controls, they are good for the most part. Also, I did look at other reviews of the buttons, and while both analog sticks feel great to me, the shoulder buttons, while being placed side by side, do work fine and nice and clicky. The face buttons were also no issues, but the D-pad does feel a little tight. While playing some really fast-paced Tetris, I did have to push the D-pad in a bit, however, it wasn't too bad. After a while, that should sort of wear in and feel a bit better over time. As I said, it does feel like a D-pad from a NES or SNES controller to give you a bit of an indication on how it is. The dual vibration motors, which work in selected programs, are a great addition to have. The build, while also being plastic, does hold up fairly reasonably. The loud stereo speakers are also a plus, and having that dual boot option is also a big win for people who prefer Linux and people who prefer Android like myself. Although I can see Linux being the better emulation station overall, it's good to always have that option to jump between the two operating systems to try out different features, which is also something good about this. There is a few different Linux versions to experiment with on this, and as well as the previously mentioned Android upgrades. So with the software side of this, I can definitely praise. It's just when buying this, make sure to read all the manuals and search up on any forums if you get stuck with anything. The hardware inside the RG552, it's not the most powerful guts inside of this, but for emulation purposes, it's definitely suited for it. I'd say Gamecube is where about the emulation stops. Anything past that is just a little too much for this console, such as PS2, Xbox emulation, that probably won't work on this. But luckily, if you do push it in the hardware department, that fan and heatsink definitely do their job, and the fan never bothered me during my playthrough. Also, just some other additions to note, the Wi-Fi being 2.4 GHz is a bit of a letdown considering the price of this unit. It would have been great to see 5 GHz to ensure that streaming will be as good as it can be. It's not too big of a downfall, but it's worth keeping in mind if you want to purchase this unit. Although even the sale price is a bit much for this, so I would honestly hold out on this until it's a bit cheaper. $200 Australian for this seems like a much better deal to balance the shortcomings from this unit, but I will have to upgrade the system to later versions to see if I get a boost in performance, and I can always update the pinned comment to reflect any changes. You know, going with a used PS Vita could also be an option for emulation with custom firmware, but even a PSP 2000 with custom firmware for that literally takes 2 minutes to get going could also be another option if you're on a budget. But if you do want something newer, then yeah, a PS Vita or first gen Switch would also work, depending of course on how much you want to spend. That part is entirely up to you. Once again, I personally enjoyed looking at this, and this review was pretty difficult to complete, but I hope this conclusion is more than enough to give you an insight as to whether this is something great to buy or maybe something to hold off on until their next model comes out and this becomes even cheaper. But this review would not have been possible without the folks over at Banggood offering me this, so I have to thank them so much for sending this out to me for review. I really do appreciate it, and I hope I've delivered a decent enough review. I said review 3 times during that sentence, but that's all good. If you are interested in this console, you can check out the links in the description below, as well as the pinned comment, but just a disclaimer, they are affiliate links, so any purchases made through there, I will earn a small percentage of commission, but you're not obligated to use them at all. If you want to check around on different websites, then that's absolutely perfectly fine, it's just there for your convenience. Another affiliate link down below is for Banggood's Hobby Day sales, which is until June 27th, so feel free to check that out if you want to find some cheap tech while it's on sale. Any saving is better than none. Once again, I was not paid by Banggood or ANBERNIC for this review. All opinions were my own. I was simply provided this console to review, and I believe I've covered everything I need to. That's it, everyone. That has been the in-depth review of the ANBERNIC RG552. I hope you did enjoy it for what it was. Once again, I apologize for the structure of this video. I tried my best to plan it out, but it's just sort of all over the place. But luckily, there are timestamps to use to skip to wherever if you don't want to sit through the whole entire thing, which I completely understand at this point in time. This one went way over time with all the stuff I wanted to cover and talk about. But anyways, now that the review is done, I can go ahead and play around with different versions of Linux and Android to improve the experience with the console, and if I have any good news with updates, I'll update the pinned comment. Alright everyone, everyone. I think this will be a one-off looking at a fairly feature-packed game console. I may stick with cheaper ones in the future just because I have some sitting around that I need to test anyways, so if you want to see more of them, feel free to let me know. But otherwise everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video. I really do appreciate it, and the next video may be something completely random, but I'm also waiting on a smartphone from a company to be delivered to me, so who knows what it'll be. But until then, take care, stay safe, be good people, and I'll see you in the next video, which, yeah, I've got no clue what it is. But until then, thanks so much once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you like this content, feel free to leave a like or a dislike if you didn't. Thanks heaps for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.